It's cold. Okay, welcome everybody. We're going to start the meeting. I'd like to welcome the people from the gallery. Lovely to see you here on a cold night, and hello to anyone who might be watching us online. So this meeting is live streamed and recorded, and the voices and images of those participating in the meeting and in the gallery may be captured as part of this recording. I'd like to start by acknowledging the original custodians of the land we're meeting on, pay respects to elders past and present, and to any descendants who may be with us here tonight. As councillors, we've all taken an oath to carry out our duties in the best interests of the people of Indigo Shire, and to do this in a fair and impartial manner. We're all committed to exercising the council's powers and functions to the best of our skills and judgment. So, do we have any apologies? I do have one from Councillor Trenery, and I have to say this is the first time in, I think, 6 years that Councillor Trenery has missed a meeting. So it was unfortunate that he couldn't be here, but he's got a great record, so I think we'll give him a leave pass for tonight. Any other leave of absence? Sorry? Oh, and Mark Florence, Director Mark Florence, and Kate Biglin is acting in Mark's role, so welcome, Kate. Any declarations of conflict of interest? So we'll move into open forum, and we've got questions from a number of people who are here with us tonight. So I will start with Ed Tyree.
Thanks, Mayor. Councillors, good evening, staff. My first question, I have three, is given the escalating public awareness in Indigo and border communities and elsewhere of the most incalculable impact of plastic waste in the world, in what ways is this council looking to combat and limit plastic pollution when groundwater from this shire is every year filling the equivalent of more than 50,375 millilitre plastic bottles at Asahai Schweppes beverage making plant in South Albury? Every time a tanker daily passes through Stanley, Beechworth, Wurrigi and Yakandanda, it carries groundwater that is used to fill 375 millilitre plastic bottles. And Goulburn Murray Water has so far approved the mining of 83 million litres of water from Indigo Shire, which under the existing provisions of Victoria's Water Act, and if mining proceeds, will every year fill the equivalent of 221,375 millilitre plastic bottles. I won't read out the comment, but there's the free press I said I would bring along with you.
Thank you for your question, Ed, and those figures are honestly quite shocking when you hear the millions and millions of bottles of water that are currently coming out of the Stanley Plateau. This community is very concerned both about the impact of the extraction of water and the resulting plastic bottle production, use and pollution, etc. that comes from that. In terms of what we're doing, the community is taking a really clear stand on this by their plastic-wise approaches that are getting some great support both for plastic bags and plastic water bottles in Yakandanda, Beechworth and other towns are starting to come on board too. And of course that's happening way outside Indigo Shire. In terms of what we're doing as a council, we're supporting those policies. We are also, in our budget, we have water bubblers that we will be installing in towns. At this stage, unfortunately, our budget doesn't allow for as many as we'd like. So I'm going to put out a plea tonight to our service groups and communities around the Shire and say, if you're looking for a project, by all means, please, support putting in of a water bubbler, and you can claim it, and that would be great. But we want as many of these as we can get, so that we encourage people to refill bottles and not use disposable plastic water bottles. So there's some of the things we're doing. Do any other councillors want to add anything to what I've said? Yeah, we have a plastic-wise policy, as Councillor Shepherd pointed out. That's just come through, and that again is attempting to do what we can to reduce the use of the unnecessary use of bottled water. Obviously, there's times where bottled water is needed in emergency management and things, but for the majority of what we're seeing, we're trying to encourage that. And I would say, Ed, that I think That's me. So good, I'll say it twice. So, as I said, by and large, as well as whatever the Shire is doing, the community is leading this in leaps and bounds, and I think as a council we're very proud of the approach our community is taking around reducing the use of plastics.
Thanks for your comments. I think it's, when you read this as Indigo Shire, and you think of our neighbour, Alpine Shire,
yes,
where there's at least 200 million litres of water under licence. Multiply that by 0.375 and you start to get a feeling for the larger worldwide problem. And I think that, we're just two small parts in Victoria that we know. This is a national problem. And while I commend the Council for the work they're doing, it needs a national response too. Actually,
just in line with that, I should have also said that the CEO and I have a scheduled meeting on this Friday with the Australian Beverage Council, who have contacted us to discuss our approach or our attitude towards bottled water. So they're obviously wanting to have that conversation. I expect they're not very happy with us, but nevertheless, that is another avenue. And also, I will say at the National Local Government Conference in Canberra last week, there was a motion put up by a council in Mildura, up on the border, around getting a water ombudsman, because they're also so concerned about the inappropriate use of a scarce resource. So there's a lot of things happening, but again, I'm really want to encourage our community to keep doing what they're doing.
Good to hear. Thank you. My second question is: given these concerns, would the council update the community about its application for membership of the Murray-Darling Association and the expected benefits of membership?
Yes, again, that's actually an item on council agenda for tonight. So, yes, we will be making that resolution tonight. If council passes that, we'll be a member on the Division 1 of the Murray-Darling Association.
And my third question is nothing to do with water at all. Is the council aware of an advertisement in the Myrtleford Times on June the 14th giving public notice of an application to allow mineral exploration across 458 square kilometres in the region, and is any part of Indigo Shire likely to be affected if any exploration licence is approved?
So I'm happy to answer that. Does any other councillor want to add to this? This came up today actually in response to notification from a community member that this application was out there, and the CEO has been able to respond. And Trevor, you might want to add to what I'm saying, but at this stage it is not uncommon for exploration licences to be sought. It doesn't mean that mining will occur. That's the next stage. So it's not really something that council has any sway over. However, it is important that we keep an eye on the fact that this is out there, and of course if there are any applications to mine, then that would be something that we would consider as a council in terms of whatever our role was in that. Do you want to add to that, CEO?
I've actually got something written here, but basically we did receive a copy of part of the application last week from the state government, one of their departments. The application does cover a significant section of the Alpine Shire, but also includes an area in Indigo Shire between Murrumbidgee and Beechworth. And it's for exploration, it's not for mining, it's just for looking, sampling. So there's about half a dozen such exploration approvals already covering that same part of the Shire. So this is just one of a number of them. Normally there's no significant impacts of exploration itself, and that's obviously different then to whether it's an application for mining. So it's not for mining, it's for looking. And actually the legislation that covers this area is designed to encourage the discovery of mineral resources. So the state and federal legislation does actually support people looking for stuff like that. So that's the situation as we see it.
Does the legislation allow the exploration company, in this case, Beaufort Gold, I think it is, just to go on land of their own choosing? I mean, without the
on private
permission, on
property?
private land?
Can we take that on notice? And we'll take that on notice, and
that was the concern raised.
Yeah,
with
sure,
me.
a very valid concern. So we'll take that on notice unless any of our directors can answer that. Okay, we'll find out and make sure that is in the next agenda. Yep. Okay, so Robin McLeish. Welcome, Robin.
Thank you, Mayor and Councillors. 2 questions. In May 2017, it was announced that Victoria's North East had secured $12 million for the cycling optimisation project. How much cash has been received by Council from the much-quoted $12 million grant for the North East cycling optimisation program?
Yes, well, sadly, I'd have to say the answer to that is, at this stage, none. We are very much asking the state government to deliver on this promise. The Premier was here, there were ministers here, there were TV cameras. I'm pretty sure that it would be a bit embarrassing if they didn't stump up with the cash. But we've had a meeting recently with people from Regional Development Victoria, and their words are, it is imminent. So it's like waiting for a baby to be born, Robin. We're just waiting for it to be delivered.
Well, I've not had that experience for a while, but seeing we've committed to over 300,000, I think it's time the government came up with a bit of money.
Yeah, I fully agree with you.
Second question, at October 2017 Council meeting, I asked if Council could provide a copy of the financial analysis carried out for the Beechworth to Yakandanda Rail Trail, to which the Mayor said she would provide a copy. The CEO subsequently replied via email, so that was not available to people who were live streaming, that the report was not in the public realm. Urban Enterprise completed an interim report including cost-benefit assessment for Tourism North East, including cost-benefit assessment for Tourism North East in December 2016. Urban Enterprises is currently compiling the North East Cycling Optimisation Master Plan, due to be completed in December 2017. Where can I obtain a copy of the North East Cycling Optimisation Project?
Yes, so you were quite right. My understanding was that it was a public document, and then I was told it wasn't a public document. But the good news is, I believe today it has been released as a public document. So in terms of where you can obtain it, I'm going to hand that over to the CEO.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. So there is a detailed master plan. I just want to clarify this, Madam Mayor, if I can. There's a detailed master plan which was arranged by the state, which isn't available publicly because it's got a lot of information there, and we don't necessarily want our competitors who are in other states and in other parts of the world to see what all our detailed strategies are. But there is a public version of the master plan and the business case that has been put together. So it summarises the master plan and the business case, and that's now available. It just came through today by email, so we'll get that on our website or some other way. And Robin, if I get your email address, I can forward you a copy directly if you like.
Thank you. And it has the degree of detail that will cover the net present value that was quoted at the community forums, etc., that also included numbers of jobs, etc.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
It's not too brief.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll get it to you, and then, of course, if it doesn't have the information you want, let us know.
I'll come back.
Will you? Okay, I have no doubt about that, Robin. Thank you. Okay, so Harvey Anderson. Welcome, Harvey.
Mayor, it was a very, very sad day for me today, going up to a preschool where the mothers drop their kids off and seeing all those beautiful old, very large trees just lying on the ground there. And my questions sort of relate to that, because a couple of months ago, the Beechworth Treescape Group, through Janice Milhinge, asked here to take care and protect our old large trees, noting that our tree walks were well regarded by community and, in addition, the trees. So the question is, did the council issue permits for the felling of these 7 large trees near the preschool at Mayday Hills last week.
So again, I'm going to hand that to the CEO because I actually don't know the answer to that, Harvey, and I've only just heard what you've told us, which is, sad news.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. There was an event over the weekend where some trees were taken down as part of the Mayday Hills development. So the land on which those trees stood was out the back area, part of a new subdivision on that site and at the rear of the childcare centre. We've gone and had a look at those, and I can advise that neither Heritage Victoria nor Council approval was needed or required for those trees being taken down. They're not native vegetation as defined in the scheme. The land on which the trees stood is outside the Heritage Victoria registered area, so there's a Mayday Hills Heritage area, this is outside of that. And it's also not covered by any relevant overlays in the Indigo planning scheme. So basically, the developer was not required to obtain any type of permit for the removal of those trees. So what they did was allowed, and they did what they were allowed to do. As sad as it is to see the trees go down, but they are allowed to do what they did.
The next question was, did Council appreciate that two of the large trees had Beechworth Treescape labels on and were part of our tree walk?
Yeah.
And to follow up on your response the first time, does that mean that anyone at any time can take down a large tree in private land here in Beechworth?
Harvey, I will say no, we weren't aware because we didn't know that these trees were going to be taken down. There are areas where people can cut down trees without seeking permits if they are not either registered or native vegetation or under a heritage overlay or have other requirements on them, which of course is always very upsetting for the people that love those trees. But yeah, the reality is we can't always stop people cutting down trees, no matter how much we might think they're very precious.
And the last question, can Council assure us and the Beechworth community that our heritage trees will be considered when assessing development proposals?
I think I can assure you that the heritage trees that are considered and have been, have been certified as heritage trees are absolutely something that we try and protect as best we can. But unfortunately, not all trees come under that category. So look, I really understand why you feel upset. I find it upsetting too, Harvey, and I wish there was more we could do. But developers are able to cut down trees when they own the land.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Harvey, for raising it with us. And my next question's from Margie Barwood. So Margie was unable to get here quite on time, but I've said, given that she's made the effort of coming, that she can ask her questions.
Thank you. Good evening, CEO, Madam Mayor, fellow councillors. Question number one, with reference to the former maternal health building lease and MOU for 109 Ford Street, Beechworth, now known as the Bunya Centre. Have Council made any progress on the development of an MOU that includes the three tenants, Indigo FM Bulls, Beechworth Women's Shed Inc. and the Indigo Shire as signatories?
Who can best answer that one? I'll throw that one to you. Thanks, Ian.
Yeah, hi Margie, thanks for your question. So yes, since we met a few weeks ago, there has been some work internally on further developing that, so we'll be back in touch once we get that to a further stage and we're ready to talk again.
Fantastic. Soon. Two, will the new MOU align purposely with the existing lease terms in relation to OH&S matters to reduce risk factor and itemise who is responsible for testing and tagging of electrical goods, general safety and contact numbers for matters that involve discrimination, bullying, harassment, should ever there be a need?
Yeah,
Look, I'll answer what I can of that, Margie, and I've only just seen the question, so I can't categorically say that all that will be covered in the MOU, but it will certainly align with the requirements of the lease, and generally, it wouldn't be repetitive if things are covered adequately in the lease. If they're not and they belong in the MOU, then that's where they'll be.
The lease is only good if all three parties have a copy.
Yep, that's a fair comment. Okay, do you want to ask your third question and then...
My third question is, does the Indigo Shire consider itself to be proactive or reactive for OH&S obligations detailed in a formal council building lease designed to protect users of their building when council have knowledge of various breaches?
Maybe the CEO might want to answer that one. Or can we take that one on notice even? Can you give a brief answer to that, Trevor?
Madam Mayor, I think this is a fairly general question, and of course we take OH&S very seriously in all matters. So I guess whenever we're working through formal building leases, and OH&S is a key part of those leases, then we would include those in the leases. And I'd like to think we are proactive in anything we do that's OH&S related. So it's a fairly general question, and I think I could say nothing else other than, of course, we take OH&S seriously, and where need be to be included in leases, we would do that. And certainly where we've got knowledge of breaches, we would always follow up on those breaches.
Yeah, so Maggie, it sounds like in what you're referring to, there's some specific issues. So perhaps rather than raising them now in open forum...
I won't raise them now.
Yeah, so if you've got specific concerns, then I'll just ask you to follow up. You can either write to me or the Director of Infrastructure, and we'll just so that we know what it is that you're worried about. Thank you very much. Thanks, Margie. I have one more set of questions. This is a bit of an unusual situation. It's somebody who wanted to be able to be here, isn't able to be here, so I will read the questions out. Unfortunately, we can't do this for everyone across the Shire all the time, obviously. So, but in this instance, I'm going to just read these three questions from Tammy Ebbett and Ian Ellett. You'll be able to answer these, I think. And I believe that Tammy's also getting these questions sent through in email. I'll just read the top three. I'll just read them out one at a time, if you don't mind. Why is traffic being directed to Howlong Road via the Upriver Road at the All Saints intersection, yet traffic to Albury, I assume we're talking about Rutherglen there, traffic to Albury is being directed on the same road via the Riverina Highway, which goes through Howlong. This appears to be a deliberate attempt to increase usage of the Upriver Gurumata Road and thus increases the cost to council to maintain this road. So the question is, why is traffic being directed to the Howlong Road?
Yeah, thanks. So look, I have provided a written response to these questions a few weeks ago, but look, the question has some inference that there's been a change to the signage. There's certainly been no recent change in the signage facing the northbound traffic, so any traffic travelling up the Federation Way near the All Saints intersection for some years has faced signs that say straight ahead to Albury and turn right to go to Howlong. So there's been no change there. So in answer to the question, there is no change that would give any rise to a deliberate attempt to direct traffic down that road. What has changed is for southbound traffic. So for some time, as you would head south of the border toward Rutherglen, I think there was a sign that said something like probably straight ahead to Rutherglen, but a left turn to Howlong. So what's happened is that signage, both the approach signage and the sign at the intersection, have been updated to add Wodonga as the primary destination for left-turning vehicles. So certainly no deliberate attempt to increase traffic flow down that road.
The second question is, what are the Upriver Road, Gurumata Road safety improvements mentioned in Council's April meeting minutes? This is listed separately to the bridge widening along Gurumata Road.
Yep, so the bridge widening was a separate project. The road safety improvements, there was a $74,000 allocation in Council's 17-18 budget, funded $50,000 from a Vic Roads grant and $24,000 from council funds. The works comprise of line marking improvements, so both edge lining and centre line, and cat's eyes along Upriver and Gurumata roads, and then there's a number of other safety improvements in Upriver roads, such as sealing of gravel road intersections and some guardrail works.
Okay. And what is Council's plan for the future of the Upriver Road, Gurumata Road?
Yeah, and we don't currently have a plan other than, the future will be informed very much by the heavy vehicle deviation route study that VicRoads will be leading through, and us and the community will be very much part of that in a consultative process.
Yep. Okay, thank you for that. So, as I said, Tammy's, there's a range of other issues and questions there, but I believe that kind of covers the majority of the issues, and they've been sent through to Tammy. All right, so that is the end of open forum. Thank you all for your contributions this evening. So the next is the condolence motion, and we do actually have a condolence tonight, and I believe Councillor Price, you're going to move that.
Yes, thanks, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to raise a condolence motion tonight for Vin Shelley, a Cornish Town or Chiltern resident. Vin was educated at the Cornish Town State School, followed by Wangaratta Technical School before beginning work on the family farm. And I'd just like to list some of his extensive volunteering work. One of his first experiences of community service came in 1952, soon after he left school, and when a major fire broke out near Bunnawartha on the old Howlong Road. The Shelley farm became the centre for the firefighting effort, which saw reinforcements brought in from around the district. The Cornish Town Brigade had only recently been formed before the fire broke out, and they didn't at the time have a fire truck, but that was one of Vin's achievements, was to get them a fire truck at a later time. Vin was a member of the Catholic Church Committee for 30 years. He served on the committee of St Joseph's Primary School for many years and was a representative of the School Sports Association. He was chairman of the Victorian Farmers Association for 2 years and a life member of Rutherglen Agriculture Society. He was president of the Chiltern Football Club for about 7 years and Chiltern's representative for the Ovens and King Football League for 20 years, serving as chairman from 1985 to 2000. He was honoured with life membership. He was president of Chiltern Bowling Club for 6 years and is also a life member. He has been a member of the Chiltern Cemetery Trust for 20 years. In 1974, Vin was elected to the Chiltern Shire Council. He served 3 terms as Shire President and was the last President of the Chiltern Shire when the Chiltern, Rutherglen, Yakandanda and Beechworth Shires were amalgamated in 1994, becoming the Indigo Shire. Vin was honoured to receive an OAM on Australia Day in 2012 for his commitment to the community and his efforts in volunteering. Vin married Val in 1959 and they celebrated their golden wedding anniversary in March 2009. So tonight I'd just like to thank Vin for his contribution to Cornish Town, Chiltern, the Indigo Shire and the broader community, and in particular to thank Val and the children Paul, Anthony, Marie and Sharon for sharing him with us and allowing him to make such a strong contribution to our community. He'll be sorely missed, and as Paul said yesterday, he can finally take his work boots off and have a sleep in, and the children won't be woken tomorrow morning to be told that he'd been up for hours. What have they been doing? In recognition of this contribution to Council and to the community, I'd like to move a motion that a letter of condolence under seal be sent to the family.
Do I have someone to second that motion? Councillor Murdoch. All those in favour? So Vale, Vin, and thank you for a great tribute, Councillor Price. So the next item is confirmation of minutes from the previous meeting. The recommendation is that minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on the 29th of May 2018 and the special council meeting on the 5th of June 2018, as published on the council website, be confirmed. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Price. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Gaffney. Any comments? All those in favour? Carried. Business arising from the previous minutes. There were several questions that were taken on notice from the open section, and these responses have been provided to the questioners and are included in the agenda papers of this meeting under business arising, if anybody would like to follow them up. Now, any other business arising? Okay, so deputations and petitions. I believe we do have a petition being presented this evening. Thank you, Councillor Murdoch.
Yeah, I've got thank you. I've forgotten since I've been away. I have a petition here from the Chiltern Valley residents calling for an upgrade to the Chiltern Valley Road. There are about 180 names on the petition, with various comments included about the dangerous condition of the road, particularly the narrowness of the road and the side edges being quite dangerous, particularly when children are using that to go to school, and many people are using that, of course, to go to work. So I'd like to table this petition.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have to sign it?
I'll leave that with our EA, Narelle, and she'll organise the signatures. Do I have someone to move? Oh, sorry, you're moving that we accept the petition. Yes. Does anyone second that? Councillor Price. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Item 10.1, just make sure I'm on the right page here. Yes. So item 10.1 is the May Finance Report. The recommendation is that Council notes the monthly financial report as at 31st of May 2018. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Goldsworthy, do I have a seconder? Councillor Gaffney. Do you wish to speak to that?
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor.
What I'd first point out is a couple of favourable outcomes. $72,000 in developer contributions, $147,000 in employee costs. Sometimes that can be a saving in money, but I'm not so sure on service delivery, but hopefully we've got that one covered. The capital works for the Indigo Shire have a total of 108 projects to date. We've got 53 projects completed, 43 projects are on track, 10 projects are behind and 2 are deferred. I'd make comment on one of those in particular that's behind, and that would be the tree removal out the front of the Chiltern Post Office. Hopefully within the next week or so we'll be going out advertising to get feedback in relation to the permit for that. A couple of highlights for projects that were completed in May: the Colston Park football club rooms, ceiling and lighting upgrades. The external lighting for the football oval was commissioned. There's a number of footpath projects, drainage and roads sealed, so it's been a pretty good month, and may it continue to the end of the year.
Okay, thank you. Do you wish to speak to that, Councillor?
Yes, I do, Madam Mayor. I hear that there's a forecast of, record snowfalls on the Alps, and I was just wondering what effect that might have on Council's sales of gas to Mount Buller. Do we expect an increase in those gas sales?
Thank you for the question. The Buller gas sales are mostly impacted by the length of the season, and so it's a little early at this stage to predict the sales for next year. Last year, I think it was, we had an extended season, and that did make a difference to Council's income. So we'll wait and see how long this weather continues for.
Thank you, Councillor. I hope you're right. There's a bit of concern that they won't have a long season this year, so hopefully you're right and I'm wrong.
Different to the forecast, Madam Mayor.
Oh, good. Good to hear. Okay. 10.2, the consideration of... Oh, sorry, we better move that, yes. Councillor Goldsworthy seconded it. Anyone else wish to speak to it? All those in favour? Carried. 10.2, consideration of the 2018-19 budget submissions. So the recommendation is that Council considers and notes the attached budget submissions and officer responses, and I will say we had many submissions, and thank you to everyone for their input. 2, endorses the attached recommendations in relation to each of the 18-19 budget submissions. 3, makes changes as recommended in the attached spreadsheet to the expense figures contained in the 18-19 draft budget as a result of the budget submissions. And 4, directs council staff to respond to each submitter with a copy of this report and the council resolution. Do I have someone to move that? Yes, CEO. Point of order from the CEO.
Madam Chair, before Council consider this resolution, could I just say a couple of things? I just need to clarify some information, but also make a reference to an error in the commentary that needs to be, I think, made clear to councillors before you consider this resolution. First of all, can I acknowledge the hard work and effort that our staff put in putting together a budget? It's quite a frantic time, and there's lots of things, lots of changes made throughout the process, and last-minute changes as well. So if I can manage their hard work, and I won't name names just now, but they know who they are. We've got a number of papers before Council tonight. We've got an agenda item to consider submissions. We've got the budget itself. We've got an agenda item to consider submissions on the Council plan, as well as to consider the Council plan. And I just wanted to clarify a couple of things. First of all, the budget document on submissions makes reference to an attachment, and unfortunately that attachment didn't make it onto the website for technical reasons. However, that has now been rectified, Madam Mayor, so the website now has the spreadsheet that's been referred to on the website about the submissions we received and what the officer recommendations are. Now, council laws, you obviously have had a copy of this for some time. We've worked through these, but the public didn't get their version, so they now have that. So just alert you to that. So that is the copy that's on the website, so if I can just table that. The item I wanted to clarify was in regards to placemaking. So it's referenced in the council plan and in the budget. And it's fair to say in recent times there's been a placemaking program in progress. So we've had in recent years the placemaking and structure plan done at Chiltern. We've currently got a structure plan going in Barnawartha. We've had a placemaking plan and structure plan in progress at Kiwa, Tangamalanga. And the council plan put forward by officers for your consideration in May, and the version that went out, in April, and the version that went out to the public for consideration suggested that the next placemaking plan be at Yakandanda. So the line item that is in the council plan is to develop a placemaking plan for Yakandanda, but also the recommendation is that we continue with that placemaking program for a couple more years to come. So there's also in the April draft copy of the council plan, we included a line also to say that we investigate options and priorities for appropriate placemaking in other towns. So the suggestion was in 18-19 we do a placemaking plan for Yakandanda, and that in the same year we also prioritise which placemaking plans would come thereafter. So as part of that, as part of the budget tonight, that's the clear, consistent message that has been in the council plan and is in the council plan tonight. And we recommend that program keeps going. Now, one of the budget submissions or changes we do recommend to council since the draft budget went out is that we believe that the amount of budget we provided for Yakandanda wasn't sufficient, and we initially had $25,000 in the budget for the Yakandanda placemaking plan, consistent with the council plan, but we don't believe that's enough, and we are suggesting that should be increased by $25,000 to a total of $50,000. So that's the proposal before you tonight, councillors. Now, what has also happened is that with the budget submissions, one of our submissions was a request for a placemaking plan also at Barnawartha. So what the officer recommendation too is supportive of that request. However, with the priority given to Yakandanda in 18-19 is what we would recommend continuing with that, but that Barnawartha request be strongly considered in the report. That will be coming to you early in 18-19 about what towns should come next after Yakandanda. So that's consistent with the council plan. That's what we recommend you would do is to consider Barnawartha in that request to be one of the next couple of towns for that. So the error we've made, unfortunately, in the commentary in your agenda paper where we talk about the financial impacts, there's a commentary there about the $25,000. Unfortunately, we've used the words Barnawartha instead of Yakandanda. We were meant to say Yakandanda all along, so that commentary is inconsistent with what we'd proposed, and which has obviously been a bit misleading and not aligning with what we're recommending to you. So we've made a mistake there, and I take responsibility for that as CEO, that we didn't pick up on that before that went out. But I just want to apologise for that, and also to the community who may have read and thought that we were recommending Barnawartha based on that commentary in the financial impacts of that's in the agenda paper. But the clear intention was for Yakandanda all along, and our recommendation is consistent with that still.
Okay, thank you for that explanation and apology. So having clarified that within the budget that the placemaking allocation is for $50,000 for Yakandanda, I go back to the original motion, and do I have someone to move that? Councillor Goldsworthy. And do I have a seconder? Councillor Gaffney. Councillor Goldsworthy.
First of all, I would like to congratulate the community in being involved in the budget. We had 19 submissions this year, which is significant for any council, let alone one the size of ours. Of those 19, there are a number of components to many of them, and so appreciate the input. Some people may feel let down that they haven't been able to persuade us to allocate funds to it, but hopefully you'll see the spreadsheet that is available now on the website, that we do intend to take many of these forward, just not in this year, or allocate funding to them this year particularly. It is disappointing for many of those that made submissions that they won't receive funding, but hopefully working with council staff we'll be able to progress it. Once again, with the issue with the placemaking, we did discuss this at length, and we agree, or I particularly agree, that Yakandanda is in most need at this stage for placemaking, and we need to allocate appropriate amount of funding so that we can do it well, and hopefully those that need it most next will be duly considered. So with that, I'd like to move the recommendation that we consider the responses and the money that's allocated to it, albeit relatively small in comparison to the entire budget, be accepted.
Thank you. Councillor Gaffney, do you wish to speak?
Thank you. That's right, Madam Mayor. On page 18, it mentions $5,000 given to a professional was a master plan for the development of the Wodonga Railway land. $5,000 was granted, which seems a bit tokenistic, but we hope that could be matched to get a grant to develop the master plan at Wodonga.
Thank you, Councillor. Anyone else wish to speak? Yes, Councillor Price.
Just to thank all the people for their 19 submissions, and also for the productive conversations that we had at the budget forums that we went to. Also, thanks to Jared and his friend, who I can't recall his name, for coming along and speaking to us about the Rutherglen Skate Park. I know that this is quite a daunting forum for most people, and they spoke really well to their submission. So I hope that we can encourage the same number or even a growing number of submissions in years to come. And even if you don't see your item listed in the budget, I hope that we've provided you a way forward, an alternative method where you might be able to access funding through some other means with our assistance. We certainly don't want to turn you away. The budget is not the avenue for all of the submissions, unfortunately. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to this item? So I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. And I would also like to thank everyone for their input, and I guess it is really clear as councillors we would love to be able to give everybody all the things they want. We've got a very limited budget and very limited revenue stream, and a small rural shire with lots and lots of very engaged communities. So thank you, and don't give up. We're doing everything we can to advocate on your behalf. If we can't get it out of our own budget, then we work very hard to see what we can get from the state and the federal government as well. So stick with us, and we'll try and get as many of these projects up as we can in the coming time ahead. Okay, so item 10.3 is adoption of the Indigo Shire Council 2018-19 budget. So the recommendation is that Council adopts this budget and the forward strategic resource plan as set out in the attached 2018-19 budget document, and that Council raises the total amounts of rates and charges of $16,250,093, and that Council declares that the rate in the dollar and charges be set, and this is all outlined in the agenda. I won't read them all, it's quite an extensive list, but all of those rates, charges are there very clearly for you to see what they are and what they're for. Council will issue rate notices and collect all rates via 4 instalment plan processes, with instalments due on the 30th of September 2018, the 30th of November 2018, the 28th of February 2019 and the 31st of May 2019. Do I have someone to move? Thank you, Councillor Goldsworthy. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Shepherd, do you wish to speak to that?
It's not often that you'd think the agreement to send out a $16.25 million invoice to somebody would be good news, but our budget is good news. We're getting into a cash position which is positive. We're increasing our rates just by the 2.25% in line with the state government's rate capping. We're delivering an $8.2 million, we'll hope to deliver an $8.2 million capital works budget. So there's significant things to be happy about, and hopefully the community, despite getting a rates notice, will be happy with the outcomes.
Okay, and Councillor Shepherd, do you wish to speak as a seconder?
I just wanted to speak about the waste management charges, which have been highlighted in the news recently, and that we've been quite diligent in looking at our own waste management costs, and of course with our concerns about, we've been following the Act, but does the Act cover what we are concerned about? And what we've worked out is that we're really at a deficit at the moment with our waste management costs. So based on the current understanding of the legislation and in the context of the Ombudsman's report, Indigo Shire Council believes the waste management charges have been legally raised, and all of these funds have been appropriately used to deliver waste management services to the community. And you'll see attached a 10-year calculation of what we've spent and show that it shows the deficit. So I invite you to have a look at that.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Anyone else wish to speak to this motion? Okay, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. And I'd like to congratulate our new CEO, Trevor Areno, for delivering his first budget in his new role as CEO of Indigo Shire, and all of the staff for, I know, the amazing amount of work, particularly our finance people, for the huge amount of work that you do to get this budget. And I'd also like to pay tribute to my fellow councillors, because I know that they have gone through this with a fine-tooth comb, questioned everything we could, and done our absolute best to bring in a balanced budget and to meet the needs of this shire. It's not an easy task, and we don't always get it right, but I think I can say absolutely clearly that that is our genuine intention, and I think this council has worked very, very hard to do that along with the staff. So thank you to you all. 10.4, the privacy policy. The recommendation is that Council adopts the attached privacy policy 2018. Do I have someone to move that recommendation? Councillor Gaffney, seconder. Councillor Shepherd. Would you like to speak to that, Councillor?
Just to say that it's very important to have a privacy policy that people can come and speak to council in a private and confidential manner.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Shepherd?
Oh, it's in the report, but the reason we need one is we need to look at why we're collecting personal information, how that information can be accessed, with whom the council shares this information, any relevant laws, and the consequences for the individual if all or part of the information is not collected. So it's something we need to have.
Yeah. Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? I put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you, councillors. 10.5, procurement policy. The recommendation is that council adopts the attached procurement policy 2018. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Goldsworthy, seconder. Councillor Shepherd, wish to speak to the motion?
Look, the policy's been through review at council level. It's gone through the finance committee. There have been a few alterations to it. It's come back to us in its present form. It's a good policy, and I believe we should stick with it. So I recommend that to councillors.
Thank you. Councillor Shepherd, do you wish to speak as a seconder?
Mainly around about, I know quite a few people speak to me about our procurement policy in terms of environmental issues, and we have certainly looked more at environmental issues in this procurement policy. So I appreciate people's input on that.
Yep. Anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Gaffney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The policy is very good, but it certainly leaves out a large amount of money for legal services that this council pays for. It's certainly not mentioned in the policy, and it doesn't have to be. It may not need to be, but I think that it should be. And I've never seen, and as you said earlier, I've asked this question many, many times, that we should have a policy for how we procure our legal services and legal advice, which goes into tens of thousands of dollars.
Okay, thank you. Do you wish to refer that through to the CEO?
Yep, sure.
Okay, so we'll follow up on that one. Anyone else wish to speak to this item before I put the motion? Okay, do you wish to sum up, Councillor?
Just addressing Councillor Gaffney's point, look, I think the last budget or last expenditure on legal fees is around about $160,000. I might be wrong there. I think it's forecast to be around $60,000 for the coming year. It's well within limits for delegation, so I can understand where we're at, but if we develop a new policy, so be it.
Okay, so I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Item 10.6, the instrument of appointment and authorisation under the Planning and Environment Act. The recommendation is that in the exercise of the powers conferred by Section 224 of the Local Government Act and the other legislation referred to in the attached instruments of appointment and authorisation, Indigo Shire Council resolves that Melissa Burns, Town Planner with the Indigo Shire Council, be appointed and authorised under Section 147(4) of the Planning Environment Act 1987 as set out in the attached instrument, that the instrument of delegation be sealed and the instrument comes into force immediately. The common seal of council is affixed to the instrument and remains enforced while the officer remains employed by council or until council determines to vary or revoke it. So that's a very long way of saying welcome to Melissa Burns. Do I have someone to move that motion? Councillor Price, seconder? Councillor Councillor Murdoch. Do you wish to speak to it? Okay. Sorry. All those in favour? Carried. And welcome to Melissa, yes. We do have to go through all that rigmarole, of course. Item 10.7, the Assembly of Councillor Records. The recommendation is that Council accepts the attached Assembly of Councillor Records as set out in the agenda. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Murdoch, seconder Councillor Price. Do you wish to speak to it, Councillor?
No, not at this moment.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone wish to speak? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. 10.8, Councillor Advisory Committee Minutes. The recommendation is that Council receives and notes the resolution of the attached unconfirmed Advisory Committee Minutes and endorses the officer comments. Again, these are attached to the agenda for anyone that wants to read them. Do I have someone to move this? Councillor Shepherd, seconder. Councillor Murdoch, you wish to speak to it?
Just to say that we have here the resolution that the Burke Museum and Historic Precinct Advisory Committee commends Susanna Doyle, Tourism Manager, and Cameron Orty, Manager of Burke Museum and Cultural Heritage, and their team for adopting a successful inclusive approach with the committee in compiling the draft consultancy brief for the Burke Museum Precinct and the Old Beechworth Jail, and endorses the comprehensive content and the concepts within it. And they wanted me to convey how pleased they were to be included in the discussion around the plan and the master plan brief. And they added some very significant things that changed the brief. So it just shows you when our advisory committees work well, they do add quite a bit to the discussion. So they just wanted to make sure that that was there.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Murdoch, do you wish to speak as a seconder?
No, thank you.
Okay, anyone else wish to speak? All right, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. And I will reiterate Councillor Shepherd's words that we're very grateful to our advisory committees for the huge amount of work and contribution they make to Council on behalf of the community. 11.1, the Active Indigo Recreation Strategy. So the recommendation is that Council adopts the Active Indigo Recreation Strategy 2018 to 2026 and endorses the following tools detailed in the background document: the Town Recreation Framework, the Capital Works Assessment Tool for recreation projects, and the criteria for funding non-council assets on public land. Do I have someone to move this motion? Councillor Goldsworthy, seconder. Councillor Price, you wish to speak to the motion?
I do. Look, once again, this is a significant body of work, and I hope it doesn't get lost in the passing of the budget and the council plan. That this has been long in coming. We've had it out for, well, first of all, the consultation that we went through initially to develop it, and then we adopted it and put it out for further consultation. We received a number of those, and it's been altered again. And it is a significant piece of work that will provide a strategic approach to our planning and development of sporting and recreation facilities. There are a lot of other objectives that it'll achieve, and I'm just glad that we're trying to get more strategic about how we do these things so that we can assist our recreation activities in going forward.
Yep. Councillor Price, do you wish to speak to it?
Yes, Councillor Goldsworthy and myself were the two councillors on the steering group for this plan, and it was a really good process to go through with the consultant Wendy Holland and staff from community development. It was really interesting for us to hear about the balancing needs of reacting to where the participation trends are, and also balancing that out with the ageing sporting infrastructure that we have across our shire that continues to be the demand that we hear from most from the community. So it's great to now have some criteria to work from, and I hope that you see your place within this plan and you see your facility or the way that your community would like to engage as a part of Active Indigo. And I just congratulate the staff and the consultants on the work that's gone into this. It's been very comprehensive, and I've enjoyed working with you all on it. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else wish to speak to this? Okay, so I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Oh, sorry, Councillor Goldsworthy, did you want to start? Yeah. All those in favour? Carried. And thank you to everyone for their contribution. It's been a very significant piece of work. 11.2, the Swimming Pool Season Review 2017-18. The recommendation is that Council notes the report and the outcomes of the 17-18 pool season, notes the improvement in operating costs and efficiencies, and authorises the CEO to exercise the option to extend the current contract with Momentum One for the 18-19 financial year, and that the trial increase in early morning swimming days from 2 to 5 mornings per week at the Beechworth swimming pool. Do I have someone to move this? Councillor Goldsworthy. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Shepherd. Yes, would you like to speak to it?
I would. Our pools are near and dear to me. I support the early morning swimming being increased from 2 to 5 mornings per week and the extended season for Rutherglen, Yakandanda. I feel that there should be a more strategic way to access these requests for opening up our pools. I think we need to work on that. Attendances are only going up and our costs are going down at this stage. And I think the introduction of a leading supervising lifeguard should assist with the pool management. The staff continue to do a good job and they're making our pools safe and an enjoyable place to swim and to chill out. So well done.
Great. Councillor Shepherd, do you wish to speak as a seconder?
Yes, if I could just highlight the capital improvements and renewal works that happened this year. So all pools got new safety signage. The Beechworth pool had installation of solar heating. The Chiltern pool had the storage shed construction and scheduled installation of fencing behind the swimming club shed. Rutherglen had a fit out of the old gardener's shed. Tangamble is scheduled for June, so maybe that's not yet done. Is that done? The Tangambalanga pool, plumbing upgrade to plant, room infrastructure and balance tank, installation of auto dosing system, and Yakandanda pool, looks as though they've scored the jackpot, installation of solar heating, installation of pool blanket, installation of barriers between walls and roof and change rooms, emergency shower and eye wash, construction of shade shelter and installation of solar power generation. And the total budget of works was $170,000. And we all know that we subsidise the pools. The people who pay don't cover the costs at all, but it's something it's always a bit of something we have to discuss, but we know that it's the community loves their pools, so we have to cover the costs, and it's great to see them being used and great to see them being upgraded.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to this motion? Yes, Councillor Price.
Just to acknowledge the group bookings, there's your usual bookings of swimming club, Vic Swim, carnivals and pennants, exercise groups, school group bookings, and swim school bookings. But I'm most interested in our staff's expansion of these group bookings in looking to other areas within our community that might be looking to access our pools. And so we've had the Scouts, the triathlon and placemaking events, and I know that we're looking even broader than that, so it's great for us to increase the usership of our pools. That's all, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Do you wish to sum up? Okay, so I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Item 11.3, Q Springs Water Extraction Monthly Monitoring. The Council notes the Q Springs Water Extraction Facility monitoring report content and the action undertaken where required. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Gaffney. Seconder? Yes. Councillor Murdoch. Do you wish to speak to it?
Yes, I do. I'd just like to start off with a couple of questions. Who checks and how often do they check the meter on the bore to see how much water is being extracted from this facility at Q Springs?
CEO.
Through you, Madam Chair, that'd be a Golden Murray Water responsibility. So they have diversions officers in the field, as I understand it, as I used to work there, whose job is to read water meters and report those back to the central accounting system.
Do we know how often that occurs?
Not offhand, I don't know.
Goulburn,
at least once a year.
Once a year.
Well, it's an annual allocation.
All right. A second question is, how much has Council spent repairing the Stanley Myrtleford Road in recent times? And this road was sealed in the last couple of years, so you wouldn't expect it to need repair. That's my question.
Do you want to take that one on notice and get back to us on how much has been spent on that road, or do you want to answer it now? Sure.
So I guess the road that was sealed in recent years is the downhill section down toward Myrtleford, so it doesn't carry any of the water trucks, so the water trucks come back up towards Myrtleford. There were some works done out there, which is hard to pinpoint how much damage has been caused by the water trucks, but certainly we can go back. I think we've answered that before, but we can find out approximately what was spent on rehabilitation works on that road.
The only other thing I'd like to say is that I think it's very good that we look at this once a month and to see what's occurring. I would have thought that the meters would be checked more than once a year for a commercial licence, and I understand that Goulburn Murray Water will be presenting to Council in times coming up. Is that correct, Madam Mayor?
Yes, I believe so. They've accepted our request to come and brief us on issues relevant to the issue of the water extraction. And so you'll get an opportunity to ask that question then, I would imagine, Councillor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, anyone else wish to speak to this recommendation? Oh, Councillor Murdoch as a seconder. Do you wish to speak to it? No. Okay, so I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. 12.1, Murray-Darling Association membership. The recommendation is that Council become a member of the Murray-Darling Association and that a councillor be appointed to be its representative on the MDA. We need to make that decision tonight. Yes, Councillor Goldsworthy.
I'd like to move a motion that we become a member of the Murray-Darling Association and that we appoint yourself, Mayor O'Connor, to the position and Councillor Bernard Gaffney as the sub on the MDA.
Okay, so I'll accept that recommendation. Councillor, you accept that? Do I have a seconder? Councillor Murdoch. Do you wish to speak to this?
I do. Membership of the Murray-Darling Association will certainly give us access to more information. It will give us access to a greater ability to lobby on behalf of the council and their constituents. So I'm hoping that we'll be a better informed council for our membership and that we'll advocate strongly on behalf of the community.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Murdoch.
Yes, I think that it's also a good place to share information with other councils about what's going on, and we do have a lot of worries about water in this shire, so I think that it's a really good organisation to be a member of.
Yep. Councillor Gaffney.
The one good thing is we go from one voice to 100 voices, and if the motions we move that get up, it all goes well for water in the Shire, particularly groundwater.
Okay, so I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you for your endorsement for me to be the representative. I feel very strongly, as many of you would know, about the issues of how we use water in our Shire and concerns for the future, particularly with climate change, and so I will endeavour to represent Council very strongly on the Murray-Darling Authority, and I have absolute faith in my fellow councillor, Councillor Gaffney, that he will support me in that role, and if I'm not available, obviously will also represent Indigo. I think we're very in lockstep on this, aren't we, Councillor? Both feel very strongly about it, so hopefully we'll represent Indigo very well and get some good outcomes. So thank you for that. Item 12.2, the annual update of the 5-year capital works program 2018-19 to 2022-23. The recommendation is that Council endorses the 5-year capital works program from 18-19 to 22-23. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Goldsworthy. Seconder. Anyone like to second it? Thank you, Councillor Shepherd. Anxious moment there. Okay, Councillor Goldsworthy, do you want to speak to this?
I will. Look, it is important for our future planning to work on a 5-year capital works program. Hopefully we can even extend that out into the future when we get our 10-year financial plan up and going. I would love to see some of these projects come forward even sooner, but unfortunately it's about the budget. We don't have it. One comment I would make is we need to develop a council policy relating to our unsealed roads and other for upgrading our footpaths. These documents should reflect sound thinking and set out criteria for the upgrading of our infrastructure that's not at a political whim of a councillor or responding to those that make the loudest noise in the Shire. So the better we get at building our strategies, the better off we'll be.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Shepherd, do you wish to speak as a seconder?
Yes, just to endorse those comments that we are constantly asking, well, what's the objective viewpoint over this capital expenditure? How do we prioritise this? Why is that one on the list? So the community can be feel assured that we are checking up, and we would like to see a more, even though it is difficult, we can see it's difficult to have a totally objective viewpoint on where we do our urban sealing and our rural road sealing and footpaths, but the community want to see how we got there.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to this motion? Okay, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you, councillors. Consideration of council plan submissions. So the recommendation is that council considers and notes the attached council plan submissions, summary table and officer responses. That endorses the recommendations in the summary table in relation to each of the submissions, makes changes to the council plan 2017 to 21 as recommended by officers in the summary table, and directs council officers to respond to each submitter with a copy of this report and the council resolution. Do I have someone to move this? Councillor Price, and a seconder. Councillor Shepherd? Councillor Price, do you wish to speak to it?
Just once again to thank people for their submissions. Hopefully you can see where they're reflected in the council plan.
Thank you. Councillor Shepherd, do you wish to make any comments?
Only that this year we had a council plan and budget events right throughout the Shire, and some were very well attended, and just to thank again the people that did, and we did change a number of changes which are in the council plan highlighted on the agenda, but we really appreciate people keeping an eye on that we're keeping up to date. And I think it's in October that we will have a look ourselves again at how we've gone for the last year on our council plan and check off some of those items against what we said we were going to do.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to this item? Okay, I'll put the item. All those in favour? Carried. 13.2 is the updated council plan, and the recommendation is that council adopts the reviewed and updated council plan 2017 to 21 as attached and publicises the updated council plan to the community. So do I have someone to move this? Councillor Goldsworthy, seconder. Councillor Price. Yes, Councillor Goldsworthy.
The strategy should go, if it's not in the council plan, it's not in the budget. If it's not in the budget, it doesn't happen. You can't get a more important document to this council than the council plan.
Oh, okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Price.
Normally much more expansive than that. I'd just like to thank some of the people that contributed to the conversation in Rutherglen in particular, because it's meant that we've included a reference to the Chiltern to Rutherglen Rail Trail and the Moodamere Rail Trail and associated road networks at a new item at 2.3.8. Develop a cycling and walking trail strategy, including the Chiltern to Rutherglen Trail and the Lake Moodamere Trail. They were able to really clearly articulate some of the frustration at seeing the money being spent over this side of the Shire, and bring to our attention the next line of priorities in NEVCO and other strategies, which includes trails over the other sides of the Shire, all around the Shire, in fact. So I just thank them for that contribution.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to this item? Okay,
Sorry, I just wanted to add that as open forum earlier this evening, we've got at 2.2.7, develop and implement a Shire-wide tree plan, including public spaces, for example, planting and replacement. So we are looking at our tree plan.
Yep, thank you. Okay, so I'll put the motion. Oh, sorry, Councillor Goldsworthy, do you wish to sum up? Okay, put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. And again, I'd like to thank everybody involved. And as you can tell from tonight's agenda, we've had a huge amount of consultation on so many issues, from budgets, council plans, active recreation plans, structured plans. All of them have required a great deal of work from staff, but most importantly, amount of input from community, and we've had an amazing response. So it's very clear that the Indigo Shire community is an engaged, active community who want to have their voices heard. And of course, not everyone gets everything they want, but nevertheless, as Councillor Price rightly said, it raises issues that we may not always be aware of or might need to be reminded of. So it is worth getting engaged, and I think it's been a really successful few months of community engagement. So thank you to everybody for that. So notices of motion. We do have a notice of motion tonight, and so this is from Councillor Gaffney. The motion is in regard to the Murray-Darling Association National Conference, a motion to be moved. Councillor Gaffney.
Thank you. That's right, Madam Mayor. The motion is at the Murray-Darling Association National Conference on behalf of Indigo Shire Council, the following motion be moved. The Murray-Darling Association advocate to the Minister for Water and the Shadow Minister for Water in the Victorian Parliament that an amendment be made to the Water Act 1989 in section 51. That the Minister, in considering an application for a commercial water licence to take and use groundwater as per section 51, that the Minister take into account community consultation and concerns, the effect of the application in regard to horticulture and agriculture, the effect on other bores for domestic and stock purposes, the effect on water use in nearby towns and villages, the effect on the environment, the effect on inflows to reservoirs required for domestic uses, consultation with the local authority, council or shire, and the purpose for which the water is being extracted.
Do I have a seconder? Yep, certainly, Councillor.
When is the national conference?
In August.
And when?
I haven't got the exact date, no.
When do the motions have to be in by?
I understand 14 days, but this would have to go to Region 1. I raised this at the last meeting, and they said that if the motion was prepared for the next meeting, which I think is in mid-July, that it would make it into the agenda for the national conference.
Do we need to be accepted as a member Shire prior to putting up a motion? Given we've run this past today.
I think our agreement to join doesn't need to be was it ratified? They came and asked us to join.
You don't think we'll need to be ratified before we put up a motion?
Well, the motion won't be put up until August.
All right. Do you reckon this is the best way forward, given that you've already raised it at the Region 1 meeting?
Oh, most definitely. It certainly wasn't voted on at Region 1, and I didn't ask it to be. I didn't move it as a motion. I moved it to be discussed, and I said that if we did join, which we have joined tonight as far as I'm concerned, is that we would be putting up a motion at the national conference. I was very pleased that councils and shires in Region 1, there wasn't one who spoke against it. Everybody spoke for it. I certainly spoke for it spoke about it for at least 10 minutes, I suppose. And I was also given assurance that if this motion was put up at the National Conference, there would certainly be a seconder, and I'd be very, very confident of it being passed.
Right. Why would you change section 51, which is titled Licence to Take and Use Water, when it's section 53 that talks about matters to be taken into account when assessing those?
Because I want that in, that when a person applies for the licence, that's when these matters are considered.
So that would be section 53, wouldn't it?
Well, I haven't got the Act in front of me, but I have it on good authority that section 51's the section that should be used.
Just curious about the explanation that's in there, the 83 megalitre figure. Where did that come from?
Well, 2 of those applications have come to Council, and the other one has been approved by Goulburn Murray Water. I thought all of Council were aware of that. I'm very surprised that you didn't know it, Councillor Goldsworthy.
Well, I'm just surprised it's 83 megalitres. Wasn't it 19 megalitres that was the initial lot that Carey took, and then there was another one?
That's right, 19 plus 19 plus 45 reaches 83.
So the 45 is for Carey's as well?
No.
All right. Just the last line for the explanation, it says the water to be carried interstate. Are you saying that all the water, all the 83 megalitres is taken to Albury?
I'm only talking about the sort of licence, and the application from Mr Carey was to take it to New South Wales, and the application for Mr Collins the same.
Okay. Is this the explanation that would go to the National Conference?
No, just the motion.
Are you able to tell me how much water has currently been extracted from the Stanley Plateau in total?
At this stage, I know there's definitely 19, and I think you mentioned at a briefing meeting that a commercial licence was also used by a jam company in Stanley. I don't know how much water that is, and I certainly didn't know of that until you raised it.
Do you know how much water is permitted to be taken?
Could you say that again?
Do you know how much water is permitted to be taken from the plateau?
I can tell you how much can be taken. That Goulburn Murray Water have given licences for 83 million plus any other licence that's out there. But I certainly know of 83. Do you know of more?
I'm curious, that's what I'm asking.
Oh, okay.
You know what the inflows are for the year in the catchment?
It varies each year.
All right, that's my questions.
Okay, thank you. So do I have a seconder for Councillor Gaffney's motion? Councillor Shepherd. Councillor Gaffney, do you wish to speak to this any further than what you've already done in answering the questions? No. Okay. Councillor Shepherd, do you wish to speak as a seconder?
Yes. I must say I don't care what's in the motion. I want it discussed at an Australian level. I think it's a good motion, but in terms of what section or whatever, I'm sure that will be worked out in the discussion. But this needs to be discussed at a higher level than just out where we are, and I think this is the forum to do it.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Price.
Yes, I'd just add to that and thank the Mayor and Councillor Gaffney for their proactive response in getting this motion together, because I think, as Councillor Shepherd's just articulated, it's just another avenue for us to be able to raise this very important issue, and I'm thankful for them putting their hand up to be a part of this committee for us.
Anyone else wish to speak? Oh, Councillor Goldsworthy.
I would support a motion that asks the CEO to prepare a report for Council to suggest a motion and explanation comments for the Murray-Darling Association National Conference that relates to bulk extraction of water and the sale to the bottled water industry. At this stage, I don't support this motion because I believe it is half-baked, it's poorly executed. I think it'll make the Indigo Shire Council look foolish if presented at the National Conference for the Murray-Darling Association in its present form. We actually are voting on it tonight as to whether this is the form that it takes, so if it's the wrong section, it won't be corrected, because we're saying it should be section 51 if we vote for that. We need council staff to present a document back to council that's informed and allows the position of council to be clearly articulated and can be promulgated to a wider audience. The risk controls for our membership to the Murray-Darling Association in the earlier item list one of the risks as damage to relationships between the Indigo Shire and state and federal water departments in the event of continued opposition to current practice. The mitigation strategy is a professional argument and business case for change will be proposed via appropriate channels. As I said, I support the concept of it, but at the delivery, this is not professional. I don't think we're going to come off looking as well as we could had the council staff prepare a document for us.
Councillor Gaffney, do you want to respond to that request from Councillor Goldsworthy?
I'll just stick to the motion. It's strange that if Councillor Goldsworthy wanted to amend the motion, he certainly had time to. I'd just like to say that Councillor Goldsworthy supports water mining on the Stanley Plateau. There is no doubt about that, and his view is contrary to community views and expectations. I expected him to oppose this sort of motion, which he has. Time for reports. If this council doesn't know the concerns of its own community, there's something wrong, and it's about time that we stood up and be counted. And the only way that we can change the policy is to change the law. This motion is a first step.
Okay, anyone else wish to speak to the motion? All right, so I'll put the motion that... yes, certainly, CEO.
Madam Mayor, I certainly don't want to take a view on this. That's outside the council's decide. But I just note that we recently put a motion of some description to the MAV State Council, which had a motion which was supported at the MAV State Council with a case for why that motion should be put. And Councillor Goldsworthy suggested that CO be asked to provide some input into this. And perhaps as a suggestion, there's a lot of text that already exists which you used for the MAV resolution, which could easily be used again to support this resolution if it helped make it look, in your words, Councillor Goldsworthy, more professional. We could add that text to this and massage it. So I guess if the resolution was broad enough for us to use that same text, then we can certainly support that.
Council, would you be open to having the resolution worded in such a way that it could be, tweaked a little bit to change the language or whatever for that AGM?
I certainly thought it's strange that the CEO has joined this debate, and he certainly has. I'm very happy with the motion. I have discussed it with some colleagues at the MDA. They will support the motion. If an amendment was sought, it should have been done right at the very start. To change it now, this will be presented by the Mayor at the sort of national conference, and if she wishes to add to it, so be it. I think it'd be a good idea.
So just to clarify, I don't think it was about to substantially change the motion. I think it was in terms of the notes to support the motion being similar to the ones that we use for the MAV.
Oh, certainly. The note here is just a tag.
It's just for us, for this council. Is that what you're alluding to? Yeah. Okay, so are you happy with that? I have to say, Councillor, I don't think that the CEO is joining the debate so much as just offering to... He didn't take a position whether he agreed with it or not, just whether there was a way of making it consistent with the MAV resolution. I'm certainly happy to put this in its form to the AGM of the Murray-Darling Authority. So anyway, I will now put the motion. All those in favour? And against? Councillor Council. Okay, so all those in favour? Councillor Gaffney, Councillor Murdoch, Councillor Price, Councillor O'Connor, Councillor Shepherd. Against? Councillor Goldsworthy. Okay, thank you, councillors. Councillors' report. Are there any reports from councillors about the committees that they are involved in? This is a good time just to brief the community on their advisory committee work or the Section 86 committees. So, yes, Councillor Price.
Not a committee that I'm involved in, Madam Mayor, but an event that I was asked to attend, the Chiltern Art Prize. Sorry, I've just lost my page there. The Indigo Shire sponsors the award for the emerging artist, and so I had the pleasure of presenting it to Bethany Thornber for her work titled Every Area is a Park, and highly commended went to Kobe Akira Wood for 3 local forests. Bethany's a young girl from Chiltern and was decided to enter her piece right at the last minute and was very pleased to have won the award. And I'd just like to congratulate the organisers, in particular Kiralee Anderson and Bethany Peters. I attended this event last year as well, and I thought there was a huge crowd there that year as well. But this year we couldn't move, and so I didn't actually see any of the artwork on the night. Had to go back and have another look. And the highly commended piece for the Indigo Shire Youth Emerging Artist Award by Kobe Akira Wood, 3 Lockwood Forest, was actually purchased by Eliza Brown and now is in Mount Ophir, as takes pride of place in the renovation that they're doing there. So congratulations to that local artist for being so well represented in such a fine place in our shire as well.
Okay, congratulations to Sophie, was it? Bethany. Oh, Bethany, sorry, that's great. Yeah, you're Sophie. Okay, anyone else wish to give any updates of recent events or meetings, etc.? Okay, my diary is there for all to see. I won't go through it all other than to say that I've been at a number of really significant conferences lately, and often you do wonder whether going to conferences is a worthwhile thing, but I would have to say both the Rural Councils Victoria and the Australian National Government Association, there was some very important, it's an election year, so there were lots of politicians and lots of opportunities to spruik, so let's hope that we get some good outcomes for Indigo Shire and for the region. Is there any general business? Yes, Councillor Shepherd.
I just wanted to invite the young people, the 14 to 18-year-olds living in the Indigo Shire, to become members of our Youth Ambassador program. And it's a new section of our youth engagement, and we're hoping to have a number of people between the ages of 14 and 18 apply to become a Youth Ambassador. They'll have the opportunity to become the youth voice and youth representative for the community, gain skills and mentoring in leadership and effective communication, discuss and explore youth and community issues, and have a say about the future of the community and create actions for positive change. And they'll be engaging with us, with our council, giving us that feedback. And they're asked to apply. Applications close on the 7th of July, and there'll be training involved at the old Priory at Beechworth. So it's a free thing to apply for, so I really encourage any 14 to 18-year-olds, and we know that they're at the moment they're engaging with our community, so to get in and get involved and put their names down for that, it'd be great to see a huge number of young people apply.
All those young people watching tonight, and I'm sure there's thousands.
Or their mothers and fathers, we'll tell them about it.
Okay. Thank you for that, Councillor. Yes, Councillor Goldsworthy.
I would just say that the Ovens-Murray Regional Partnership is on tomorrow.
Oh, yes.
For those that are getting along, please support the Let's Build Up Beechworth Secondary College.
Absolutely, and yeah, it would be really great to see a good contingent there, and those of us that are going will be absolutely, getting out there to support our local school to get the upgrade it desperately needs. Anyone else tonight? Any other councillors? Okay, so I'm going to call the meeting to a close. The next meeting is on the 21st of July at 6:30pm. Thank you all for coming, and for anyone watching, thank you for sticking with us till the end. and we'll see you in July. I beg your pardon, it's the 31st of July. Pop my glasses back on. Oh, there it is, 31st of July. Thank you.